Hello everybody. How you all doing? I hope you're well. I'm just quite pleased because I actually managed to get the transition working properly. It's been bugging me. It helps if you read the instructions, like namely the timer for how long through the process of changing from one screen to the other the actual stinger crosses the screen, because otherwise you get the next picture before the stinger crosses the train. That stinger is the weird word for that coloured stripe that runs across the screen for my version. I have not yet made my own. I will one day. Yet another in a mini long line of things which I really want to do creatively but haven't got around to yet. Another one is doing my own overlay. So instead of having this the dark screen background which has a slight texture to it that's based on carbon fibre, that's the word. Yes, yay for things working. Thank you for the congratulations. I do appreciate it. I want to do something where it's like a night scene with pictures from kids' imagination type stories. So there'll be a steam train, there'll be a river with maybe a boat on it, maybe a hot air balloon, even though normally they don't fly at night. A cloud dragon, a star dragon. Sorry, I have an image that I want to use for that where it's just the veriest slight suggestion of a dragon in this form of swirling light, which is kind of night sky-ish, that particular piece of it. So that's kind of a hint of a dragon up in there and all this sort of stuff, and yet somehow still have my camera scene set into it as if the stories we've got are producing these imaginary pictures in little kids' minds. So hopefully one day I'll be able to get around to it, figure out what I'm doing. I need to collect up the bits and pieces for the various images that would be appropriate for it, and also a great big tree hanging over in the foreground, probably about where over on this side of my screen I have the chat. The tree trunk will go up on the far side of that and then lean across the top of the picture. So just those sort of little hints of things, and yes, I know it should be easy enough to do. It's just a matter of doing it, getting the right tone of the light intensity in the images, putting a colour overlay on them so it looks like it's nighttime, all that sort of stuff. Me, set myself challenges, not half. Anyway, so how are you? How are you doing? I hope that you're going well. I hope you haven't been sick. And if you have, I hope you're starting to feel a bit better or have something that you enjoy that you can give you a little bit of comfort along the way. I keep turning and looking down over there because I'm looking at the front lawn to see if the sun is shining. And yes, it is. It's actually shining at the moment. It wasn't earlier on. We had heavy rain and it was hitting the chimney, which is up there alongside me. So if you hear this sort of a sound, that's the wind blowing against the chimney. It's a big metal chimney. And then occasionally we get a bit of rain which also hits the chimney, and you will hear that. There's nothing I can do about it except for lean into the microphone so that my voice is louder than the wind and the rain, hopefully. We'll see how we go. Anyway, other things. So good to have both Jonathan and Shadow here. So I'm going to give you both a shout out, even though in theory we don't have a lot of others at the moment right here. Ooh, I think you're hearing my headphones. There you go. That should be a bit better. I didn't realise that they still had a little bit of sound coming through them. Thankfully, not much. Yes, that one worked. Yay. I do hope that someone would tell me if the actual link doesn't show up properly for you in the standard Twitch chat. I don't think any of those command links show up in the overlay chat. And then also one for Shadow. And whoopsie, need to put in the shout out command. Oh no, try that again. O instead of 0. Yeah, and one day I'll also get it so my microphone is not sitting on the same desk as my keyboard So it's not going thunk, thunk, thunk in your ears when you're listening to me. And yay, that one worked as well. So that's awesome. I'm just delighted that I actually kind of remembered that I can do that. It's just one of those things. Sorry about that. And sorry, Shadow, for calling you out like that. I didn't mean to actually sort of do that without asking you, but I just got so excited to see you there. So I hope that's okay. Hope you don't mind. Shadow does all sorts of games which I don't play. They're wonderful games. I'm just not very good at that sort of thing, and I haven't really got into them. But they're really, really good at those sort of games. Final Fantasy series is pretty big in the story of games that they play, but there are other ones as well. I know that. Oh, what was the name of the other one? I was trying to remember the other one that I saw them playing the other day. And their mum was there too, which was really cool. I know her. I know Mum quite well. I've known her for years. And Jonathan is writing up a game that is based on, let me see. I'm trying to think of how to explain this. Historic documents. Is that right, Jonathan? I think I've got that right. Historic documents, like letters between certain key people in history from, I think, around the original Elizabethan era, Queen Elizabeth I, Mary Queen of Scots, those people. You might have heard those names before. They were real people, but also the people who were in their court, the people who were in politics at the time. There was a lot of plotting and scheming going on, all sorts of things. And so Jonathan's working on a game that's based on the historic facts of all these things going on. And it's like, oh my goodness, that's so far beyond me. But he reads these letters out online, getting familiar with the actual texts that were written at the time. Some of them are in really weird versions of English compared with what we're used to. Sorry, I'm still tapping away over here. Yep, good. Just a ban and block that I had to do. Sorry about that. Yeah, if you're a streamer, just keep an eye on who is in the users list, which you can find by looking at, if you're on your moderator page, you've got a panel there that'll show you. Otherwise, look in next to where it says stream chat. If you're using OBS, there's a community button, also on Twitch itself there is. But have a look and see if there's anyone there that you don't know the name of. And copy their name, put it into Twitch Insights bot checker, and if they show up there, ban them, because some of them are stealing your visitors' personal information and selling it. And other ones receive people's donated or gifted subs, and it's just a bot. And the person who is donating has paid for the sub, and yet no real person is actually benefiting from it. Those are at least two reasons why you want to get rid of any bots that are in your channel. Yeah, very weird English. The latest word you'd not heard of was sucker. Yes, sucker. To feed someone, to provide for their actual needs, their physical needs, usually in terms of food and drink. And how do I know this? Just because I read lots and lots and lots of old books when I was growing up, which leads me around to introducing myself to any new people here, any visitors. Hopefully you'll hang around and keep coming back. Hi, I'm Jev. I read old children's books, which is far more accurate than saying I read old-fashioned children's stories. Old children's books, such as this one, which is not one I'm currently reading, but it is one that used to belong to my grandmother's brother. In fact, it's so old that it was given to him in 1897. That's old. So old that when you run your fingers over the page, you can actually feel the indentations from the printing machine pressing the type into the paper to transfer the ink. So old that the children in it wear clothes like this. That's old. I'm trying to get my camera to autofocus. Come on. There it goes. That's better. And also the images in this particular one are made out of scratched lines on a metal printing plate, and then ink is rubbed into it, the excess ink is rubbed off, and then it is put with pages, one piece of paper at a time, into a printing press, squeezed super hard, and then taken apart and let the ink dry. Lurking but caught that moment. Yeah, sucker is such a fascinating word. Yes, yeah. Okay, carry on with the recording. Go and enjoy it. I hope you can anyway. I'm just going to carry on blethering over here before I start reading. So great to see you, Shadow. Good to have you here. Wonderful. And good to have you here too, Rich Gay Aunt. That's good to see you. I'm just going to put this up here again in case we've got some others. Sorry. I'm still finding my way around between keyboards. I've been using a computer for quite a long time, and I'm still finding my way around. I was looking for this one. There you go. Ah, got it. For once. What would you like me to call you? Do you have a preference for name? If you do, type it in the chat. So this is anyone who comes into my chat. If you have a preference for how I name you, there you go. Hi Ken, how are you? Great to see you here too. I'm just going to, first of all, I'm going to give Ken a shout out because I know him, and then I'll explain why. Right, so Ken is part of a group called Codex, and you will see the logo for that down over there if you're watching on Twitch at the bottom of alongside the Twitch overlay chat section of it. Aunt, good, great, awesome, thank you. Makes it a lot easier. So Ken reads not old-fashioned children's books, that's my line. Ken reads public domain books, and Codex is made up of readers of public domain books who read them on Twitch. Some of them, like me, transfer them over to YouTube as well. But the idea behind public domain books is that they were written, usually they've been written so long ago that they're no longer within copyright. And so therefore, we're not taking away from an author's income. And also because most of us don't really have huge amount of income, we're not having to give huge amounts of money over to somebody to pay for the right to use someone's writing. Codex is a group of these readers. Most readers read books that were originally written for adults. Some of them read books that were written for children as well, but the majority are adult books. I, as far as I know, am the only one who specializes in reading children's books. I don't do adult books on my Twitch stream, but that's okay, because there's a decent portion of other people who do read them. And we get together once a month with book club. Beforehand, a book will have been chosen. We'll each read through it in our own time, maybe read a section of it on our own stream, and then actually do effectively a Twitch meetup online, and each of us, those who are taking part, will stream it on their Twitch stream and share thoughts on the book that's just been read. So one of the ones that was just done fairly recently was Flowers for Algernon, which I have not read, I don't know anything about, but there was quite a bit of engagement with that. And you are most welcome to join the Codex Discord server, and if you join the Codex Discord server, you can also be part of the book club. They also have a movie club, but I don't know anything about that one. So as a non-reader, you would be able to take part in the chat. You can contribute questions beforehand that can be discussed, and people can put their thoughts forward on it and things like that. So the Discord is not just for the readers. It's actually for anyone who's interested in public domain books and talking about them. And if you want to actually visit some others who are part of Codex, I've given you the link already for Ken, Soft Spoken, and also down below my video window when I'm live on Twitch, otherwise on my About page on Twitch, there is a section there that says Codex, and it's got the same sort of logo as we've got over there on my overlay, and with a typewriter background. And I have there the links for all of the current members of Codex for their Twitch channel, so you can actually go and visit them. Follow them, please do. Follow them, say hi to them when you see them online. Sit in and listen when they're actually reading. A lot of the others also will play games, just chatting, all sorts of things like that. Not everybody just reads. I mean, I don't really just read, but chatting is part of what I'm doing when I'm going to be reading. But there are game playing sessions going on and all sorts of things like that as well. So go visit them all, follow them all, be encouraging, enjoy old books, old language. Most of them are not quite as old language as Jonathan's reading is, but that's just, there's such a wide variety. And amongst the type of people that we have who are readers in Codex are, we've got teachers, we have people who actually read audiobooks for a living, for their day job. And yet they will read in their spare time. They will read on Twitch just for the fun of reading. I think it might be quite a relief to not have to worry about getting it word perfect, not having to worry about re-recording that little bit because your breathing was not quite right or your enunciation was way off or something like that, or you stumbled over a word. And just actually being able to do it live. There's a real freedom to be able to just read and talk and things like that. We've got people who are voice actors and all sorts of things. Such a wide variety. I actually need to have another look into the details to find out more about all the others who are in the group. Yes, it's great to actually know that there is a pool of people that may happen to be online when you happen to go online. There are two of us in a similar time zone. I'm in New Zealand, which I commonly refer to as NZ, just because of the way we say our letter Z. It's Z, not Z. So my time zone is 12 hours ahead of what used to be called Greenwich Mean Time. It is now actually called Universal Coordinated Time, UTC. And then there's another one of the readers who happens to be a school teacher as well, is in Japan. And so we're only about 3 hours apart in our time zones. A lot of the others are a lot further afield than that. I haven't yet come across another reader who's in New Zealand or Australia in Codex. But maybe if you read online and all you read is public domain books, maybe you can join Codex too. Anyway, hang out with the bunch over on the Discord server. Go and visit the various readers, see what sort of stuff they're reading. And I mean, like any book does not go on forever. So if you don't like the book they're currently reading, then come back again and again and again until they're reading one that you really enjoy. There you go. And say hi. You're welcome to tell them that I sent you too. Ken's a good one to start with. Ken would really, really, really love to get to Twitch affiliate. And sometimes what that takes is just having a few more followers and a few people actually participating in chat. Several times in the course of a month would help. So yeah, please go and visit Ken's channel and hang out with Ken when he's reading, and just sort of be encouraging. You know, let's lift each other up and help each other get to the places we want to get to. Another one who's wanting to get up to affiliate status, not. If it's anything like me, it's not because I wanted to get to affiliate for income, because I don't think I'm really ever going to make any income off it. It's actually because I wanted to have emotes available so you can use them in chat, my own emotes. And yes, I do actually have some, and they're available for followers. I have one sub emote. I will be doing some more of those. That's another one of my creative projects I need to work on. And I'm trying to think of ideas for what I'm going to do for my sub emotes. If you've got suggestions, you're welcome to head over to my Discord server, which is that link which I've just given you. If you head over to my Discord server and just give suggestions in there. And the reason why I suggest joining the Discord server is because if I'm not live at the time when you come to my channel and you type in the chat, I'm not going to see it, because when I come back to my channel, it'll just show me the chat that's been there since I arrived this time. That's just the way Twitch works. So yeah, my Discord server is, what's it there for? chatting about books. It's probably one of the quietest Discord servers around, actually, if I'm honest. I'm very behind in terms of putting up the illustrations from the books that we've been reading. I'm halfway through one of the books that's sort of like about 3 books ago. I try to put them up because they're usually also out of copyright, so I can do that, and you can see the illustrations that I usually put up here behind me when I'm reading. But sometimes it's nice to see them. What have we got? So there's that. There's also, you can also discuss the books that we've been reading if you want to, make suggestions for other books, which I've already mentioned, and just sort of, share pictures of your pets, what your favourite food is, what you're having for dinner tonight, all of that sort of stuff. That's what it's there for. So I'm just trying to see if there's anything else I need to tell you about. Oh, and because I'm reading a book, it's an eminently suitable place for lurking on my stream. And if you want to let me know that you're lurking, but and therefore are happy for me to actually shout out to you, call you out, basically, then you hit the exclamation mark and then the letters for lurk. Exclamation mark LURK, no spaces, no capital letters, and Twitch will very happily give you a little wee blurb about the fact that you're going to be lurking instead of being actively involved with. Yes, exactly, that's the one. Lurking is awesome. Did you remember your snacks, drinks, and comfy seat? And I'll keep reading you the story. I will in a moment. So, hi Q, good to see you here. Great to have you here. Sorry I didn't say anything earlier on. Yeah, that's basically, I think, all the things I needed to tell you. I just need to copy some information and put it somewhere because I'm trying to be my own moderator, which is not a bad thing because then you actually understand what's involved if you have a bigger community and you have moderators who are helping out. I do actually have 2 moderators, but they're usually very busy doing other things at the time. Yes, be lurking. I do hope you've got your drinks, snacks, and comfy seat. Which brings me to the other part of what was meant to me, my intro for new visitors, new people, not visitors. We want you to be here on a regular basis rather than just occasionally coming by. So, new people, hi, I'm Jev. I live in NZ, and the 3 tips I have for you are: make sure you have something to drink, something to eat, and somewhere comfortable to sit, or something comfortable to enjoy your reading time with. This is Quest. You can't quite see it. He's got green sprout leaves on top of his head. So this is Quest Sprout, and he is a plushie from Swords Comic, which is made by a chap who lives in Wellington in New Zealand, and he keeps me company. He's my stream buddy. I've got cheese slices today, and yay, my green screen is still not turning them transparent. And I've got water, as always, and I usually use that water bottle because I can give it a shake. Can you hear my rain yet on my chimney? This is how I usually drink my water because it's easier and I don't have to worry about knocking it over. The same way, sorry, that wasn't meant to be quite so noisy in the microphone, but I do have another drink. I will get there eventually. I'll start reading. And we have homemade iced coffee again, which is great if you're a coffee drinker. It's not if you're not. Sorry, Shadow. So, homemade iced coffee, super, super simple. Super simple. Nothing fancy like you see people making recipes for. Homemade iced coffee is a double shot of dark coffee from the coffee machine. Yes, we have one. We drink that much coffee. And then it has half a teaspoon of icing sugar stirred in because icing sugar dissolves really, really easily even when something is not hot like normal sugar does. It usually requires a bit more stirring to get it dissolved. So only half a teaspoon of sugar if you feel like it. I don't usually even bother with that, but I have today. And then topped up with cold milk from the fridge, and that's all you need. Iced coffee, yum. So that's today's luxury item. Right, what are we up to? Is there anything else I need to tell you about? I'll tell you about YouTube later on because I've already told you about Discord. Oh, Codex Codex readers often use Project Gutenberg, which is a website that has ebooks, ebook versions of a lot of public domain books. So I'm just going to give you that, PG, for Project Gutenberg. There's the command for it. And all these commands I'm using, I think everybody can use those. I don't think there's anything weird there going on to stop you from. So public domain books, Project Gutenberg, and I've got the link for it. Sorry, the link for it over in the chat. And if you're watching over on YouTube, you really are missing out on all this lovely interaction that happens over in the chat panel and me reading out comments and things like this. So if you're watching on Twitch and wondering what I'm talking about, I have a YouTube channel, which I think I gave you a link for before. And on YouTube, I trim off everything everything outside of my camera frame, okay? Everything outside of that is taken away, and all you have on YouTube is just the video with the outline. But all of the chat is still there. I just don't have the little bit right at the very beginning where it says starting soon. Everything else stays there. I don't actually really edit them at all unless there's something totally inappropriate which needs to be cut out in the middle, which I had once or twice in the early days of streaming before I'd actually put in chat filters for language and stuff like that. And I do actually have our filters set fairly tough because I want my reading space here on Twitch but also on YouTube to be totally suitable for grannies and their grandkids who are just wanting something comfortable to do. Granny is thinking of something that's not the typical TV programs that are available these days, wants to be able to interact with grandkids, and thinks of a book that they've read when they were younger, when they were a kid like me, or even younger than, even older than, further along ago than that, you know what I mean, all those words, and doesn't need to be shocked by modern usage of language and stuff like that. I don't have a problem with people swearing and all that sort of stuff, but for the purposes of our Twitch stream and also for our YouTube videos, no, thank you. I want to keep this as a clean language place and no inferences and things like that. So there you go. All of that sort of stuff. And more. And I need to stop talking and get on with reading because we've been here long enough. Right, so here we go. I'm Jev. I'm reading The Story of the Amulet by Edith Nesbit, and we are up to chapter 12. We've only got, I think, 2 or 3 chapters after this one to go till the end of the book, and I have to figure out what we're going to read next. Ooh, so get on over to Discord and make some suggestions, but it has to be public domain. So, chapter 12, The Sorry Present, it's got a hyphen in the middle, and The Expelled Little Boy. That sounds a bit odd. Did I read you the title last time? I'm just checking. Before Pharaoh. They've had Before Pharaoh. That's all right. That's good. So, The Sorry Present and The Expelled Little Boy. So let's read. Look here, said Cyril, sitting on the dining table and swinging his legs. I really have got it. Got what? Was the not unnatural rejoinder of the others. Sorry, just going to tip my microphone so it picks up a little bit better. Right, carrying on. Cyril was making a boat with a penknife and a piece of wood, and the girls were making warm frocks for their dolls, for the weather was growing chilly, kind of a bit like here. Penknife, does anyone know what a penknife is? Before I leap in and tell you all about it, write it in the chat. I'll read out your explanation. Otherwise, if nobody does, I'll be explaining in a minute. Penknife. There you go. Why, don't you see? It's really not any good our going into the past looking for that amulet. The past's as full of different times as the sea is of sand. We're simply bound to hit upon the wrong time. We might spend ourselves looking for the amulet and never see a sight of it. Why, it's the end of September already. It's like looking for a needle in a bottle of hay. I know, interrupted Robert. But if we don't go on doing that, what are we to do? That's just it, said Cyril in mysterious accents. Oh, bother. Old Nurse had come in with the tray of knives, forks and glasses and was getting the tablecloth and table napkins out of the chiffonier drawer. There's another word for you to look up, chiffonier. I'll spell it for you, Chiffonier. And then we'll come back to penknife shortly. I'm giving you time to look them up. It's always meal times, just when you come to anything interesting, said Cyril. And a nice interesting handful you'd be, Master Cyril, said Old Nurse, if I wasn't to bring your meals up to time. Don't you begin grumbling now, fear you get something to grumble at. I wasn't grumbling, said Cyril, quite untruly. Hi, Atkinson, good to see you here. Good evening, good time zone. Yeah, exactly. It's now 3:30 in New Zealand, and I'm guessing it's definitely evening over where you are. I'm just going to give you a shout out. I think I got that right, yes. Atkinson's another one of our Codex readers. So say hi, everybody. No, I mean, say hi to Atkinson, everybody. Oh my goodness, 11:30 p.m. in Ohio. And 10:30 for Atkinson. Goodness. Oh. You guys up in the middle of the night. Obviously, you're not ready to sleep yet, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Anyway, I'll carry on reading you a bedtime story then, shall I? And in the meantime, people are looking up chiffonier, Chiffonier, to tell me what it is, and guesses for telling me what a penknife is. I know what that one is. I know roughly what a chiffonier is, but you can look it up for me too. Right, carrying on. I forgot to tell you that before. I often get lost in the middle of a line when I'm reading. As I'm actually reading the words out with my eyes on the word, I can get lost. So this isn't anything. Anyway, so we got here. I wasn't grumbling, said Cyril, quite untruly. But it does always happen like that. You deserve to have something happen, said Old Nurse. Slave, slave, slave for you day and night, and never a word of thanks. Why, you do everything beautifully, said Anthea. Anthea's the second oldest, Cyril's the oldest. It's the first time any of you's troubled to say so anyhow, said Nurse shortly. What's the use of saying, inquired Robert. We eat our meals fast enough and almost always 2 helps. That ought to show you. So Robert's the third in the family, and he tends to be rather impulsive. Ah, said Old Nurse, going round the table and putting the knives and forks in their places. You're a man all over, Master Robert. There was my poor Green. All the years he lived with me, I never could get more out of him than, that's all right, when I asked him if he'd fancied his dinner. And yet, when he lay a-dying, his last words to me was, Maria, you was always a good cook. Isn't that the way? She ended with a trembling voice. And so you are, cried Anthea, and she and Jane instantly hugged her. When she had gone out of the room, Anthea said, I know exactly how she feels. Now look here, let's do a penance to show we're sorry we didn't think about telling her before what nice cooking she does and what a dear she is. Now the children, these 4... We haven't had one of them speaking yet, have we? There are 4 children so far, currently in this story. There is a 5th child, but the 5th child is away with mother. Mother is recuperating in Cyprus at the moment, and father is away in Manchuria reporting on the war that's over there, apparently with the Russians. And you can look up your history books for that. But the 4 children are Cyril, Anthea, Robert, and Jane. So that Cyril is sometimes called Squirrel, Robert is sometimes called Bob or Bobby, I think. Anthea is sometimes called Panther, and Jane is sometimes called Puss. She's the youngest, like the little cat. So that's the 4 children, just in case you were wanting to know about any of them. Right, we'll carry on. Let's do a penance to show we're sorry we didn't think about telling her before what nice cooking she does and what a dear she is. Penances are silly, said Robert. Not if the penance is something to please someone else. I didn't mean old peas and hair shirts and sleeping on the stones. That's like peas, dried peas in the soles of your shoes as a form of penance. Making one's body uncomfortable to keep one's mind from straying onto things that were inappropriate, I think was one of the things. Anyway, that's what that was. Hair shirts, same idea. Sleeping on the stones, all the same idea. Just sort of making your body not the main focus, not the thing that you are pandering to. Not if penance is something to please someone else. I didn't mean old peas and hair shirts and sleeping on the stones. I mean we'll make her a sorry present, explained Anthea. Look here, I vote Cyril doesn't tell us his idea until we've done something for old Nurse. It's worse for us than him, she added hastily, because he knows what it is and we don't. Do you all agree? Just the fact of wanting to know what it is he was going to tell them. There you go. And that's why I was going to tell you about the children, is the children, while their parents are away, are staying with this lady that they call Old Nurse. She used to look after them when they were little. She used to work for their parents and work and live in the house that they lived in. And they get on really well with her, and so while the parents are away, they're staying with her. The others would have been ashamed not to agree, so they did. It was not till quite near the end of dinner, mutton fritters and blackberry and apple pie. Never heard of mutton fritters. It's not a way I've ever used it. Not mutton. Mutton is grown up. The meat that you have for lamb is from sheep, young sheep. And then when they're a little bit older, it's called hogget, when it's the meat. And then when it's older again, when the sheep is older, it's called mutton. I know this because I live in New Zealand and sheep meat is a big part of the New Zealand background, especially if you're older like I am. Anyway, mutton fritters and blackberry and apple pie. I'm guessing the mutton fritters are chopped up mutton from a roast or something, a way of using leftovers. That out of the earnest talk of the four came an idea that pleased everybody and would, they hoped, please Nurse. Now, we have found with all of the books written by Edith Nesbit that children will often have great ideas of something that they want to do that would be helpful or be nice or be kind for somebody, and usually it goes rather awry. Yes, and remind me to explain penknife to you shortly. Cyril and Robert went out with the taste of apple still in their mouths and the purple of blackberries on their lips, and in the case of Robert, on the wristband as well, and bought a big sheet of cardboard at the stationer's. Then at the plumber's shop that had tubes and pipes and taps and gas fittings in the window, they bought a pane of glass, the same size as the cardboard. The man cut it with a very interesting tool that had a bit of diamond at the end, and he gave them, out of his own free generousness, a large piece of putty and a small piece of glue. Oh, wonderful. Putty's lovely stuff, and it smells of linseed oil because it's made with it. While they were out, the girls had floated 4 photographs of the children off their cards in hot water. So it's like stamps. When you're trying to collect stamps, you soak them in water while they're still on the paper that they were on, and the water softens the glue that holds them in place so that the stamps don't get damaged. And that's what the girls have done with the photographs, because in the old days photographs were developed, especially black and white ones, which would have been this era, were developed in chemicals where one of the last stages of when you're working with them is you actually rinse the photographs in water, just plain water. So water is not going to damage the photographs when they're removing them from the cardboard that they have been glued to. Because I remember I used to worry about that until I actually found out how photographs were developed. Modern ones, a lot of photographs are actually printed using laser system printers and various other things like that. And if you do them at home, then sometimes the inkjet printers, very high quality ones, but you can't put those ones in water because the ink usually runs and it wrecks them. So, but in these days, the old ones, the photograph that's the basis behind me is the street where the children are living in the story. This photograph was taken 4 years after the book was published. It's actually a black and white photograph, as in the colour that's here and here, and most of the colour over in the background of this over here, but they have colourised it. Somebody has actually put a wash of colour, the special inks that you could get to actually make black and white photographs look coloured. And that's what someone's done to this photograph. So that era of photographs, you developed the negative, and then you, in a completely black space, and then you put the negative into a holder and you shone light through it onto your printing paper, and the light would react with the chemicals that are on top of the photographic print paper, and then you put it through some more chemicals in a special sequence for a special amount of time, rinse them all off and hang them up to dry, and then you actually have your photographs. And people used to do it themselves if they had the right equipment. So the girls soaking their photographs to take them off the backing card is not a problem. It's not going to wreck the photos. We will carry on. While the boys were out, the girls had floated 4 photographs of the 4 children off their cards in hot water. These were now stuck in a row along the top of the cardboard. Cyril put the glue to melt in a jam pot, because the way glue was made, it needed heat to get it to soften. Cyril put the glue to melt in a jam pot and put the jam pot in a saucepan and the saucepan on the fire. I'm guessing there's water in the saucepan, while Robert painted a wreath of poppies round the photographs. He painted rather well and very quickly, and the poppies are easy to do if you've once been shown how. Then Anthea drew some printed letters and Jane coloured them. So all of the children have contributed. The words were, "With all our loves to show, we like the things to eat." So show is S-H-E-W, the children's own spelling, and things is actually spelled thigs. T-H-I-G-S. And when the painting was dry, they all signed their names at the bottom and put the glass on, that means on top of the sheet of cardboard, and glued brown paper round the edge and over the back, and put 2 loops of tape to hang it by. Yes, a very, very simple way of mounting a photograph for hanging it on the wall was you had the glass, you had the picture or the photograph, and then you use brown paper tape, which usually had to be licked, yuck, tasted terrible, or with something like this heat softened glue, long before the days of hot melt glue that we have these days. And you put that down the edge of the paper and the cardboard and wrap it around the edges, and then you also have it across paper on the back or tape across the back. And I have seen a lot of things done this way. I don't have any myself, but yes, I have seen them. I don't think I have. I do, one in a box. Anyway, when the painter had done that, 2 loops of tape to hang it up by, of course, everyone saw when too late that there were not enough letters in things. So the missing N was put in. It was impossible, of course, to do the whole thing over again for just 1 letter. So I'm not quite sure how they put it in. Maybe they just put it above or something like that. "There," said Anthea, placing it carefully face up under the sofa. "It'll be hours before the glue's dry." They were using that glue, not the lick and stick glue that had a horrible taste when I was at school. "It'll be hours before the glue's dry. Now, Squirrel, fire ahead." "Well then," said Cyril in a great hurry, rubbing at his gluey hands with his pocket handkerchief, "what I mean to say is this." There was a long pause. "Well," said Robert at last, "what is it that you mean to say?" "It's like this," said Cyril, and again stopped short. "Like what?" asked Jane. "How can I tell you if you will all keep on interrupting?" said Cyril sharply. So no one said any more, and with wrinkled frowns he arranged his ideas. That's a good idea. "Look here," he said, "what I really mean is we can remember now what we did when we went to look for the amulet, and if we found it, we should remember that too." "Rather," said Robert, "only, you see, we haven't, but in the future we shall have." "Ooh." "Shall we though?" said Jane. "Yes, unless we've been made fools of by the Psammead. So then, where we want to go is to where we shall remember about when we did find it." Oh, that's right, because the 3rd book is about effectively as a form of time travel. "I see," said Robert, but he didn't. "I don't," said Anthea, who did very nearly. "Say it again, Squirrel, and very slowly." "If," said Cyril, very slowly indeed, "we go into the future after we've found the amulet, But we've got to find it first, said Jane. She's the youngest. Hush, said Anthea. There will be a future, said Cyril, driven to greater clearness by the blank faces of the other three. There will be a time after we've found it. Let's go to that time, and then we shall remember how we found it. And then we can go back and do the finding really. That's actually pretty smart. I see, said Robert, and this time he did, and I hope you do too. Yes, said Anthea. Oh, Squirrel, how clever of you. But will the amulet work both ways? Inquired Robert. It ought to, said Cyril, if time's only a thingamy of what's-its-name. Anyway, we might try. Let's put on our best things then, urged Jane. You know what people say about progress and the world growing better and brighter. I expect people will be awfully smart in the future. All right, said Anthea. We should have to wash anyway. I'm all thick with glue. When everyone was clean and dressed, the charm was held up. So the charm is this thing that they've found. I'm just wondering if I've got a picture I can show you of that. I probably do. I shall just find a picture of it for you. This is it here. This is the charm. I need to make that bigger and put it where you can see it. There you go. This is the charm, and it's made out of kind of a special stone or clay or something like that. And they found it in a second-hand shop just after they had rescued the Samoyed. Now, the Samoyed is a sand fairy, and the Samoyed looks rather odd. The Samoyed has the body of a body and arms and legs of a rather plump monkey, I suppose you would say. I'm just trying to find the picture of the Samoyed. There is a picture of it. I know that. There. That was the next picture. I don't know why I didn't look there. And I'm going to have to move it around so I can get it in the right place on the picture. So that's the Samoyed there. He's sitting on a plate on the table, and he's sitting on a pile of silver sand because he's a sand fairy, and sand is where he is comfortable, where he relaxes, where he sleeps, and it helps him to get clean, like birds fluffing their feathers in the dust. And so he's got these long arms and legs. He's got his legs all pulled up at the moment, and a hairy body, a little bit like a monkey or a chimpanzee. And then the description says he's got ears like bat's ears that are quite noticeable. His face is side on here, so you can't quite see them properly. That's its mouth right there. But the oddest thing is his eyes. His eyes are on stalks, like snail's eyes, and he can pull them in close, or he can poke them a long way out and then even poke them around the corner slightly. You know, sort of long way out compared with his head size, but not silly long way out. So that's the Samoyed, and that's the Samoyed, and it is the one that said you need to get the charm. The charm was this item that they found, and the charm is helping them to find the actual full amulet, which supposedly will grant them some wishes. And for some strange reason, the Samoyed wants them to find the charm, and wants them to find the amulet, and wants them to have some wishes. I'm thinking that the Samoyed actually has something going on in its own mind as to why it wants the children to have wishes. Maybe it wants them to wish for something that will be for its own benefit. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to try and look enough ahead that I can find the right picture for you for the next part of the story. Good question. Not quite sure where we got up to in the story in terms of the illustrations. I think it's about there, and then I'm going to carry on with reading. Oh, right there, right. Yeah, got it now. Sorry. Now I need to get the picture back to the right size, so when I show it to you, it's not going to be the whole thing of everything and nothing but the picture. Right, and then we can carry on reading. Okay, here we go. So, When everyone was clean and dressed, the charm was held up. "We want to go into the future and see the amulet after we've found it," said Cyril, and Jane said the word of power, which activates the charm. Obviously, they have the Samoyed with them. They walked through the big arch of the charm, because what it does is it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and that loop in the top of it, that's a hole, is big enough for them to be able to walk through. They walked through the big arch of the charm straight into the British Museum, which actually isn't that far from where the children are living. Straight into the British Museum. They knew it at once, and there, right in front of them, under a glass case, was the amulet, their own half of it, as well as the other half that they had never been able to find. How odd. And the two were joined by a pin of red stone that formed a hinge. "Oh, glorious," said Robert. "Here it is." And I'm going to give you the picture. There they are. Right in front of them, under a glass case, was the amulet. So they're in the museum, and they obviously recognise where they are that it is the British Museum, where they have been to quite often. It was one of the places that's referenced at the beginning of the book as one of the things that they could do while they're staying with old nurse in the city. And so this is a display cabinet, and the children are all leaning on it, looking into the cabinet down here, somewhere underneath the huddle of people, at their charm, which is apparently about this big, and the actual amulet itself, and they are pinned together with this pin that goes through. I wonder what's going to happen next. Ooh. I'll get the next picture ready so that we can watch it. Look at it. Sorry, not watch it. Look at it when we get to that part of the story. Oh, I wasn't talking that long. Sorry, my tablet just locked itself, and that it woke up quickly. That's good. So the two were joined together by a pin of red stone that formed a hinge. "Oh, glorious," said Robert. "Here it is." "Yes," said Cyril, very gloomily. "Here it is, but we can't get it out." "No," said Robert, remembering how impossible the Queen of Babylon had found it to get anything out of the glass cases in the museum, except by Samoyed magic. And then she hadn't been able to take anything away with her. "No, but we remember where we got it, and we can—" "Oh, do we?" interrupted Cyril bitterly. "Do you remember where we got it?" "No," said Robert, "I don't exactly, now I come to think of it. Nor did any of the others." "But why can't we?" said Jane. "Oh, I don't know." Cyril's tone was impatient. "Some silly old enchantment rule, I suppose. I wish people would teach you magic at school like they do sums, or instead of. It would be of some use having an amulet then." "I wonder how far we are in the future," said Anthea. "The museum looks just the same, only lighter and brighter somehow." "Let's go back and try the past again," said Robert. "Perhaps the museum people could tell us how we got it," said Anthea with sudden hope. There was no one in the room, but in the next gallery, where the Assyrian things are and still were, they found a kind, stout man in a loose blue gown and stockinged legs. "Oh, they've got a new uniform. How pretty," said Jane. When they asked him their question, he showed them a label on the case. It said, "From the collection of," and a name followed, and it was the name of the learned gentleman who, among themselves, and to his face, when he had been with them at the other side of the amulet, they had called Jimmy. "Ooh." "That's not much good," said Cyril. "Thank you." "How is it you're not at school?" asked the kind man in blue. "Not expelled for long, I hope." "We're not expelled at all," said Cyril, rather warmly. "Well, I shouldn't do it again if I were you," said the man, and they could see he did not believe them. There is no company so little pleasing as that of people who do not believe you. This is true. "Thank you for showing us the label," said Cyril, and they came away. As they came through the doors of the museum, they blinked at the sudden glory of sunlight and blue sky. The houses opposite the museum were gone. "I think we need to have a look at the map," map here. Let's see if we can find out. So I'll just make, hang on. I need to go. No. There's a thing here which will let me interact with it. I just need to find it. Interact, that's the one. And then I can do things like clicking on that to get it out of the way. Right, so the children are staying on Fitzroy Street, which is this one that runs down here. I would be terrible as a weather forecaster. So this street here, this street that runs this way down here, the one with the red dot on it there, that's Fitzroy Street. Okay, that's Fitzroy Square Gardens. Okay, so we're going to zoom out and look for the British Museum. So I'm going to try and keep it so the red dot is where we can find it. British Museum. It's not that far out, I know that much. Hang on, I'm going to look on something else and then I'm going to tell you where it is. I'll be able to find it more easily. Sorry. Yeah, fancy green screen dancing, that's the one. British Museum. Right, I found that. Now where is that compared with the other bit? Oh, it's that way. I was moving it the wrong way. Right, let's go back to this. We'll find that little bit that popped up. There. So that's where they are. That's where the children are in the house here. The British Museum is there. There's the British Museum. It's not that far away at all, is it? We'll just zoom in a bit. So it's only a few streets away. Well, it's a little bit of a walk, really. But the British Museum is here. And so this is where they would have gone before to keep themselves occupied. Possibly on a rainy day. Nurse would have said, go on, keep yourselves happy, keep yourselves busy. Go to the museum, because it's a free thing that you can do. Or it used to be a free thing that you could do. Oh, that's what I was going to look at for it. It said something about the houses opposite were gone. Let's see if we can see what the buildings are like near it. So there's the museum with other bits of building all around it. I wonder if it's this bit here that's the bit that was all gone. Except that this is the front of the museum here. There's the front of the museum. They might have been talking about this here. These might be all newer buildings. Anyway, I don't know. Let's go back to that and zoom out. There we've got the two. And I'll get that one out of the way for you. Just because it's not really helping us at the moment. Okay. So thank you for showing us the label, said Cyril, and they came away. As in, left him. As they came through the doors of the museum, they blinked at the sudden glory of sunlight and blue sky. The houses opposite the museum were gone. Instead, there was a big garden with trees and flowers and smooth green lawns, and not a single notice to tell you not to walk on the grass and not to destroy the trees and shrubs and not to pick the flowers. There were comfortable seats all about and arbours covered with roses and long trellised walks, also rose-covered. Whispering, splashing fountains fell into full white marble basins, white statues gleamed among the leaves, and the pigeons that swept about among the branches or pecked on the smooth, soft gravel were not black and tumbled like the museum pigeons are now, but bright and clean and sleek as birds of new silver. A good many people were sitting on the seats, and on the grass babies were rolling and kicking and playing, with very little on indeed. Not at all the way things were done in the time of the children. Men as well as women seemed to be in charge of the babies and were playing with them. It's like a lovely picture, said Anthea, and it was, for the people's clothes were of bright, soft colours, and all beautifully and very simply made. No one seemed to have any hats or bonnets, but there were a great many Japanese-looking sunshades, and among the trees were hung lamps of coloured glass. I expect they light those in the evening, said Jane. I do wish we lived in the future. They walked down the path, and as they went, the people on the benches looked at the 4 children very curiously, but not rudely or unkindly. The children, in their turn, looked. I hope they did not stare at the faces of these people in the beautiful soft clothes. Those faces were worth looking at. Not that they were all handsome, though even in the matter of handsomeness they had the advantage of any set of people the children had ever seen. But it was the expression on their faces that made them worth looking at. The children could not tell at first what it was. That's interesting. Iced coffee. I know, said Anthea suddenly. She did, suddenly. I know, they're not worried. That's what it is. And it was. Everybody looked calm. No one seemed to be in a hurry. No one seemed anxious or fretted. And though some did seem to be sad, not a single one looked worried. But though the people looked kind, everyone looked so interested in the children that they began to feel a little shy, and turned out of the big main path into a narrow little one that wound among the trees and shrubs and mossy, dripping springs. It was here, in a deep shadowed cleft between tall cypresses, that they found the expelled little boy. He was lying face downward on the mossy turf, and the peculiar shaking of his shoulders was a thing they had seen more than once in each other. So Anthea kneeled down by him and said, "What's the matter?" "I'm expelled from school," said the boy between his sobs. This was serious. People are not expelled for light offences. "Do you mind telling us what you've done?" I tore up a sheet of paper and threw it about in the playground," said the child in the tone of one confessing to an unutterable baseness. You won't talk to me any more now you know that," he added without looking up. "I'm thinking this is well in the future." "Was that all?" said Anthea. "It's about enough," said the child, "and I'm expelled for the whole day." "I don't quite understand," said Anthea gently. The boy lifted his face, rolled over, and sat up. "Why, whoever on earth are you?" he said. "We're strangers from a far country," said Anthea. "In our country it's not a crime to leave a bit of paper about." "It is here," said the child. "If grown-ups do it, they're fined. When we do it, we're expelled for the whole day." No wonder the guy in the museum was asking if they'd been expelled. "Well, but," said Robert, "that just means a day's holiday." "You must come from a long way off," said the little boy. "A holiday's when you all have play and treats and jolliness, all of you together. On your expelled days, no one will speak to you. Everyone sees you're an expelder, or you'll be in school. Suppose you were ill." "Nobody is, hardly. If they are, of course, they wear the badge and everyone is kind to you. I know a boy that stole his sister's illness badge and wore it when he was expelled for a day. He got expelled for a week after that. It must be awful not to go to school for a week." "I don't think this is the time period the children are used to at all, do you?" "Not even our time period, although the author might have thought that this is what we were going to be like." "Do you like school then?" asked Robert incredulously. "Of course I do. It's the loveliest place there is. I chose railways for my special subject this year. There are such splendid models and things, and now I shall be all behind because of that torn-up paper." "You choose your own subject?" asked Cyril. "Yes, of course. Where did you come from? Don't you know anything?" "No," said Jane definitely. "So you'd better tell us." "Well, on Midsummer's Day, school breaks up and everything's decorated with flowers and you choose your special subject for the next year. Of course, you have to stick to it for a year at least. Then there are all of your other subjects, of course, reading and painting and the rules of citizenship." "Good gracious," said Anthea. Look here, said the child, jumping up. It's nearly 4. The expelledness only lasts till then. Come home with me. Mother will tell you all about everything. Will your mother like you taking home strange children? I don't understand, said the boy, settling his leather belt over his honey-coloured smock and stepping out with hard little bare feet. Come on. So they went. The streets were wide and hard and very clean. There were no horses, but a sort of motor carriage that made no noise. Ooh, electric cars maybe. The Thames flowed between green banks. The river banks were green with growth plants, and there were trees at the edge, and people sat under them, fishing, for the stream was as clear as crystal. It sounds like the river up in Oxford, on the backs at Oxford. I think it's Oxford, or is it Cambridge? Anyway, there's a river through one of those universities, and it's got trees that come down to the edge and grassy banks, and people sit on them and enjoy being by the river, although the river's not quite as clear as that, the water. Everywhere there were green trees, and there was no smoke. The houses were set in what seemed like one green garden. The little boy brought them to a house, and at the window was a good, bright mother face. The little boy rushed in, and through the window they could see him hugging his mother, then his eager lips moving and his quick hands pointing. A lady in soft green clothes came out and spoke kindly to them. Ooh, hang on, I'm just checking to see if this is where I meant to... No, not that one. Cancel. This one. This is walking through the city. And it says, like a big garden with trees and flowers and smooth green lawns. And sorry, I forgot to show you that before. And there's another one which I shall get for you now, which comes just after that. Here you go. A lady in soft green clothes came out, spoke kindly to them, and took them into the oddest house they had ever seen. It was very bare. There were no ornaments, and yet every single thing was beautiful, from the dresser with its rows of bright china to the thick squares of Eastern-looking carpet on the floors. I can't describe that house. I haven't time. And I haven't heart either, when I think how different it was from our houses. The lady took them all over it. The oddest thing of all was the big room in the middle. It had padded walls and a soft, thick carpet, and all the chairs and tables were padded. There wasn't a single thing in it that anyone could hurt themselves with. "Whatever's this for? Lunatics?" asked Cyril. The lady looked very shocked. "No, it's for the children, of course," she said. "Don't tell me that in your country there are no children's rooms." "There are nurseries," said Anthea doubtfully, "but the furniture's all cornery and hard like other rooms." "How shocking," said the lady. "You must be very much behind the times in your country. Why, the children are more than half of the people. It's not much to have one room where they can have a good time and not hurt themselves." "But there's no fireplace," said Anthea, because that's how you kept houses warm back in the children's time. "Hot air pipes, of course," said the lady. "Why, how could you have a fire in a nursery? A child might get burned." "In our country," said Robert suddenly, "more than 3,000 children are burned to death every year. Father told me," he added, as if apologising for this piece of information, "once when I had been playing with fire." So Father had said, you might get hurt, so don't do that, and explained why by saying that children do actually lose their lives in the fire, getting burnt. The lady turned quite pale. "What a frightful place you must live in," she said. What's all the furniture padded for?" said Anthea, hastily turning the subject. I'm just trying to find the next picture in case we need it. "What's all the furniture padded for?" Anthea said, hastily turning the subject. "Why, you couldn't have little tots of 2 or 3 running about in rooms where the things are hard and sharp. They might hurt themselves," said the lady. Robert fingered the scar on his forehead where he had hit it against the nursery fender when he was little. Yeah, it was normal for people to injure themselves, but you learn from that too. But does everyone have rooms like this, poor people and all? Asked Anthea. There's a room like this wherever there is a child, of course, said the lady. How refreshingly ignorant you are. No, I don't mean ignorant, my dear. Of course, you are awfully well up in ancient history, but I can see you haven't done your duties of citizenship course yet. But beggars and people like that, persisted Anthea, and tramps and people who haven't any homes. People who haven't any homes? Repeated the lady. I really don't understand what you're talking about. It's all different in our country, said Cyril carefully, and I have read it used to be different in London. Usedn't the people to have no homes and beg because they were hungry? And isn't London very black and dirty? Wasn't London very black and dirty once upon a time? And the Thames all muddy and filthy and narrow streets and... You must have been reading very old-fashioned books, said the lady. Why, all that was in the Dark Ages. My husband can tell you more about it than I can. He took ancient history as one of his special subjects. I haven't seen any working people, said Anthea. Why, we are all working people, said the lady. At least my husband's a carpenter. Good gracious, said Anthea, but you're a lady. Ah, said the lady, that quaint old word. Well, my husband will enjoy a talk with you. In the Dark Ages, everyone was allowed to have a smoky chimney, and those nasty horses all over the streets, and all sorts of rubbish thrown into the Thames, and of course the sufferings of the people will hardly bear thinking of. It's very learned of you to know it all. Did you make ancient history your special subject? Not exactly, said Cyril, rather uneasily. What is the duties of citizenship course about? The duties of citizenship course. Try to get the words right. Actually, I've got a thing for that. There you go. Don't you really know? Aren't you pretending just for fun? Really not? Well, that course teaches you how to be a good citizen, what you must do and what you mustn't do, so as to do your full share of the work of making your town a beautiful and happy place for people to live in. There's a quite simple little thing they teach the tiny children. How does it go? I must not steal, and I must learn. Nothing is mine that I do not earn. I must try in work and play to make things beautiful every day. I must be kind to everyone, and never let cruel things be done. I must be brave, and I must try when I am hurt, never to cry. And always laugh as much as I can, and be glad that I'm going to be a man. To work for my living and help the rest, and never do less than my very best. That's very easy, said Jane. I could remember that. That's only the beginning, of course, said the lady. There are heaps more rhymes. There's the one beginning. There's the one beginning. I must not litter the beautiful street with bits of paper or things to eat. I must not pick the public flowers. They are not mine, but they are ours. And things to eat reminds me. Are you hungry? Wells, run and get a tray of nice things. Why do you call him Wells? Asked Robert, as the boy ran off. It's after the great reformer. Surely you've heard of him. He lived in the Dark Ages, and he saw that what you ought to do is to find out what you want, and then try to get it. Up to then, people had always tried to tinker up what they'd got. We've got a great many of the things he thought of. Then Wells means springs of clear water. It's a nice name, don't you think? Here Wells returned with strawberries and cakes and lemonade on a tray, and everybody ate and enjoyed. Now, Wells, said the lady, run off or you'll be late and not meet your daddy. Wells kissed her, waved to the others, and went. Look here, said Anthea suddenly. Would you like to come to our country and see what it's like? It wouldn't take you a minute. The lady laughed, but Jane held up the charm and said the word. What a splendid conjuring trick, cried the lady, enchanted with the beautiful growing arch. Go through, said Anthea. The lady went, laughing. But she did not laugh when she found herself suddenly in the dining room of Fitzroy Street. "Oh, what a horrible trick!" she cried. "What a hateful, dark, ugly place!" She ran to the window and looked out. The sky was grey, the street was foggy, a dismal organ grinder was standing opposite the door, a beggar and a man who sold matches. Sorry, I'm just going to move a little bit. A beggar and a man who sold matches were quarrelling at the edge of the pavement, on whose greasy black surface people hurried along, hastening to get to the shelter of their houses. "Oh, look at their faces, their horrible faces!" she cried. "What is the matter with them all?" "Their faces. They're poor people, that is all," said Robert. "But it's not all. They're ill, they're unhappy, they're wicked. Oh, do stop it. There's dear children. It's very, very clever. Some sort of magic lantern trick, I suppose, like I've read of. But do stop it. Oh, their poor, tired, miserable, wicked faces," she said. The tears were in her eyes. Anthea signed to Jane. The arch grew. They spoke the words and pushed the lady through it into her own time and place, where London is clean and beautiful, and the Thames runs clear and bright, and the green trees grow, and no one is afraid or anxious or in a hurry. There was a silence. Then, "I'm glad we went," said Anthea with a deep breath. So they shoved her back into her time, but they stayed in their own. "I'm glad we went," said Anthea with a deep breath. "I'll never throw paper about again as long as I live," said Robert. "Mother always told us not to," said Jane. "I would like to take up the duties of citizenship for a special subject," said Cyril. "I wonder if Father could put me through it. I shall ask him when he comes home." "If we'd found the amulet, Father could be home now," said Anthea, "and Mother and the lamb." "Let's go into the future again," suggested Jane brightly. "Perhaps we could remember if it wasn't such an awful way off." So they did. This time they said, "The future where the amulet is, not so far away." And they went through the familiar arch into a large light room with 3 windows. I'm just trying to find out if there's a picture I need to show you. Getting ready. They went through the familiar arch into a large room with 3 windows. Facing them was the familiar mummy case. And at the table by the window sat the learned gentleman. They knew him at once, though his hair was white. His was one of the faces that do not change with age. There's the mummy case. There's all the light pouring into his room. There's bookshelves there actually, but the light's coming from over here. There's the learned gentleman, and his hair is white. And he's sitting at his table, probably working on some research of some sort over there. They knew him at once, though his hair was white. He was one of the faces that do not change with age. In his hand was the amulet. Trying to see if I can see it in the illustration. No, I can't. Complete and perfect. He rubbed his other hand across his forehead in the way they were so used to. "Dreams, dreams," he said. "Old age is full of them." Because he always thinks that he's in a dream when the children take him somewhere that's out of their time period. He rubbed his other... got that. "Dreams, dreams," he said. "Old age is full of them." "You've been in dreams with us before now," said Robert. "Don't you remember?" "I do indeed," said he. The room had many more books than the Fitzroy Street room, and far more curious and wonderful Assyrian and Egyptian objects. So this is not the room upstairs where they currently live. This is another room, which has these 3 large windows. The room was full of more curious and wonderful Assyrian and Egyptian objects. "The most wonderful dreams I ever had you in them," said the old the learned gentleman. "Where," asked Cyril, "did you get that thing in your hand?" "If you weren't just a dream," he answered, smiling, "you'd remember that you gave it to me." "But where did we get it?" Cyril asked easily. "Ah, you never would tell me that," he said. "You always had your little mysteries. You dear children, what a difference you made to that old Bloomsbury house. I wish I could dream you oftener. Now you're grown up. You're not like you used to be." "Grown up?" said Anthea. The learned gentleman pointed to a frame with 4 photographs in it. "There you are," he said. The children saw 4 grown-up people's portraits, 2 ladies, 2 gentlemen, and looked on them with loathing. "Shall we grow up like that?" whispered Jane. "How perfectly horrid." "If we're ever like that, we shan't know it's horrid, I expect," Anthea, with some insight, whispered back. "You see, you get used to yourself while you're changing. It's being so sudden makes it seem so frightful now." "There is an insight for you." "That's absolutely accurate." The learned gentleman was looking at them with wistful kindness. "Don't let me undream you just yet," he said. There was a pause. "Do you remember when we gave you that amulet?" Cyril asked suddenly. You know, or you would if you weren't a dream, that it was on the 3rd of December 1905. I shall never forget that day." "Thank you," said Cyril earnestly. "Oh, thank you very much." "You've got a new room," said Anthea, looking out of the window, "and what a lovely garden." "Yes," said he, "I'm too old now to care even about being near the museum. This is a beautiful place. Do you know, I can hardly believe you're just a dream. You do look so exactly real. Do you know," his voice dropped, "I can say it to you, though, of course. If I said it to anyone that wasn't a dream, they would call me mad. There was something about that amulet you gave me, something very mysterious." "There was that," said the Robert. "Ah, I don't mean your pretty little childish mysteries about where you got it, but about the thing itself. First, the wonderful dreams I used to have after you'd shown me the first half of it. Why, my book on Atlantis that I did was the beginning of my fame and fortune too. And I got it all out of a dream. And then Britain at the time of the Roman invasion. That was only a pamphlet, but it explained a lot of things people hadn't understood." "Yes," said Anthea, "it would." "That was the beginning, but after you'd given me the whole of the amulet, it was generous of you. Then somehow I didn't need to theorize. I seemed to know about old Egyptian civilization, and they can't upset my theories." He rubbed his thin hands and laughed triumphantly. "They can't, though they've tried. Theories, they call them, but they're more like, I don't know, more like memories," he said. "Yes, because some of those actually are memories." I'm just looking for the next picture, just in case we need it now. Right, okay. And no, we don't need it just yet, but I'm getting it ready. More like memories. "I know I'm right about the secret rites of the Temple of Amun." I'm so glad you're rich," said Anthea. "You weren't, you know, at Fitzroy Street." "Indeed I wasn't," said he, "but I am now. This beautiful house and this lovely garden, I dig in it sometimes. You remember you used to tell me to take more exercise. Well, I feel I owe it all to you and the amulet." So he stayed healthy because the children told him to do more exercise. "I'm so glad," said Anthea, and kissed him. He started. "That didn't feel like a dream," he said, and his voice trembled. "It isn't exactly a dream," said Anthea softly. "It's all part of the amulet. It's a sort of extra special real dream, dear Jimmy." "Ah," said he, "when you call me that, I know I am dreaming. My little sister, I dream of her sometimes, but it's not real like this. Do you remember the day I dreamed you brought me the Babylonish ring?" "We remember it," said Robert. Did you leave Fitzroy Street because you were too rich for it? Oh, no, he said reproachfully. You know I should never have done such a thing as that. Of course I left when your old nurse died. And what's the matter? Old nurse? Dead? Said Anthea. Oh, no. Yes, it's the common lot. It's a long time ago now. Jane held up the amulet in a hand that twittered. I think he means shakes. She means shakes. Come, she cried. Oh, come home. She may be dead before we get there, and then we can't give it to her. Oh, come. Because they've made that picture for her. Ah, don't let the dream end now, pleaded the learned gentleman. It must, said Anthea firmly, and kissed him again. When it comes to people dying, said Robert, goodbye. I'm so glad you're rich and famous and happy. Do come, cried Jane, stamping in her agony of impatience. And they went. Old nurse brought in tea almost as soon as they were back in Fitzroy Street. As she came in with the tray, the girls rushed at her and nearly upset her and it. Don't die, cried Jane. Oh, don't. And Anthea cried, dear, ducky, darling old nurse, don't die. Lord love you, said nurse, I'm not a-going to die yet a while, please heaven. Whatever on earth's the matter with the chicks? Nothing, only don't. She put the tray down and hugged the girls in turn. The boys thumped her on the back with heartfelt affection. I'm as well as ever I was in my life, she said. What nonsense about dying. You've been a-sitting too long in the dusk, that's what it is. Regular blind man's holiday. Leave go of me while I light the gas. The yellow light illuminated 4 pale faces. We do love you so, Anthea went on, and we've made you a picture to show you how we love you. Get it out, squirrel. The glazed testimonial was dragged out from under the sofa and displayed. The glue's not dry yet, said Cyril. Look out. What a beauty, cried old nurse. Well, I never. And your pictures and the beautiful writing and all. Well, I always did say your hearts was in the right place. It's a bit careless at times. Well, I never did. I didn't know as I was ever pleased better in my life. She hugged them all one after the other, and the boys did not mind it, somehow, that day. How is it we can remember all about the future now? Anthea woke the Samoyed with laborious gentleness to put the question. How is it we can remember what we saw in the future, and yet when we were in the future we could not remember the bit of the future that was past then, the time of finding the amulet? Why, what a silly question, said the Samoyed. Of course you cannot remember what hasn't happened yet. But the future hasn't happened yet, Anthea persisted, and we remember that all right. Oh, that isn't what's happened, my good child, said Samoyed crossly. That's prophetic vision, and you remember dreams, don't you? So why not visions? You never do seem to understand the simplest thing. It went to sand again at once, went back to bed. Anthea crept down in her nightgown to give one last kiss to old nurse, and one last look at the beautiful testimonial hanging by its tapes, its glue now firmly set, in glazed glory on the wall of the kitchen. Good night, bless your loving heart, said the old nurse, if only you don't catch your death a cold, because Anthea's creeping around in her nightgown. And that's the end of today's chapter. And the next one, which I am not reading today, is chapter 13, The Shipwreck on the Tin Islands. Oh my goodness, that's a little bit different, isn't it? Nothing like what I would have expected. So, what's going to happen next? The shipwreck on the Tin Islands. Goodness, how's that going to work? Are they going to see a shipwreck? Are they going to be part of a shipwreck? Well, they've been part of the destruction of Atlantis, so I suppose they could be part of a shipwreck. Are they going to cause a shipwreck? Oh no, that would be terrible. Where else are they going to get the Samoyed? No, not the Samoyed, the charm to take them for finding more of finding more about the amulet. Are they going to be able to find it? Have you got any clues? I don't. Sorry, I have no idea what's going to happen. So it's just one of those things, isn't it? I suppose. Oh, goodness. I have no idea. She's really good at writing in such a way that leaves you wondering. I bet they'll be driving the ship. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow or other they end up being involved with sending the ship wherever it is that it's meant to be going, and then it gets shipwrecked or something. But will they be able to find the amulet? I'm thinking that the amulet is probably going to be found in our very last chapter, or the one before, the penultimate chapter, the one before the end. Now, penknife, did you find out what that was? And a chiffonier, did you find out what that is? I will tell you, hopefully not the Titanic. I think the book was written before the Titanic sank, in which case it's not so likely to be the Titanic, because I don't think that the author has the gift of the second sight. So, penknife. A penknife was similar to what we would call a pocket knife, with a smallish blade, may or may not have a folding blade, but it was used for sharpening a feather, the base of a feather, to use as a quill pen. That's what they were for. A pen knife. A knife for sharpening or creating your pen. And did you find out what a chiffonier is? I shall look it up and tell you. A chiffonier, a low cupboard used either as a sideboard or with a raised bookshelf on top. There you go. Low cupboard, that's sideboard. So bench-like top, cupboard spaces underneath with doors on them, maybe some drawers, something like that, and then with some open shelves on top, possibly. We would call that in New Zealand a dresser or a Welsh dresser, possibly, because the Welsh used to display their best plates on the shelves at the top. It's a certain style, but I'm guessing that the style of a chiffonier would be, the finishing style and stuff like that would be a little bit different. Let's see if we can find out what it comes from, what language it comes from, because words are interesting. Apparently in North American English, or American English, it's actually used for a chest of drawers or a dresser, like a dressing table sort of thing. Comes directly from a French piece of furniture. That's the name is French, and it is the name of a French piece of furniture. And it's French, apparently. The French name comes from the French words for a rag picker. So it suggests that the original intention was that it was intended as a receptacle for odds and ends which had no place elsewhere. So there you go. I'm going to go with the usage being the British usage, similar to a sideboard but differentiated by its smaller size and by the enclosure of the hole by the front of doors. That's the cupboard part of it, although possibly has shelves above. I'm going to go with the British usage in here because this is an English author who wrote these books, so she will be using words the way she is used to them. And here's a quote from chapter 39 of Martin Chuzzlewit by Charles Dickens. There's a pretty good authority for words for you. Says, quote, "Well, she might take the keys out of the little chiffonier which held the tea and sugar." So it's a small cupboard arrangement thing. Anyway, it's not a word I'm familiar with. I have heard it before, but not one that I have used before. Fancy words. Oh, come here and learn words and learn how to probably not say them too. Yeah, now in the story, for some strange reason, the children, when they go somewhere using the charm, are actually able to understand and speak with the people wherever they go. And she doesn't actually give us a full explanation of why. But other people who go with them cannot understand, and the people that they visit cannot be understood by the people who go with them. So when they took the learned gentleman with them back to, where was it? One of the places they went to, he couldn't understand the people who the children were talking to, but the children could. And the people they were talking to could understand the children, but they couldn't understand the learned gentleman. And so that's why it seems to be that the Pharaoh was speaking in British. Yes, she would just be using whatever was the common English that the children would have used for the way she was writing the text for when they were actually engaging in conversation. So just one of those quirky things. Like, yeah, if you've decided that you're going to write a story that has these odd aspects to it, then you've got to figure out how you're going to explain it, if you're going to explain it, or just decide, I'm not even going to bother explaining it. I will just actually make the statement that for some strange reason, these people can understand those and the other ones can't, which is probably a much easier way of doing it. So just that sort of stuff. Funny. How odd. Anyway, so before I go, there are a couple of things I need to do. I need to tell you once again, in case you arrived late, go and check out Codex. Yeah, magic. Absolutely magic. Go and check out the other Codex readers. The links for their Twitch streams are below. Their Twitch channels are below. And you can also join the Codex Discord server. And I will give you the link for that. Just in case you didn't see that all when you first arrived here, if I was already reading. We've got a couple of people here who are part of the group. Actually, I think one of them has already gone off to do their thing, probably gone to bed to go to sleep, actually. So Soft Spoken, that's Ken. He's one of the readers in Codex. And I'm giving you the link so you can go to his Twitch channel once I'm finished, and you can follow him, and then Twitch will notify you when he goes live, and you can have a listen when he's reading or just chatting or playing something. I can't remember all the things that he does, but I have actually been there when he's been reading before. And it would be really good if we help him to get to affiliate on Twitch. Now, if you're on YouTube and you feel like you're missing out, you are. Create desirability in the situation, right? Yeah, so if you want to be able to be part of the conversation and you're watching this on YouTube, then you're most welcome, and I do encourage you to join Twitch if you haven't already. It's free, just like joining YouTube is free. And then go to my account on Twitch, my Twitch channel, follow me, which is the little heart icon underneath the big picture at the top of the page, and then Twitch will actually tell you when I go live if you're online at the time. And if you've got the app on your phone, or if you happen to have the window open on your browser, it will tell you. Just like YouTube will notify you when somebody has put a video up. And if you're watching on Twitch and you want to actually see any of my YouTube videos, my playlists, my playlists are the books I read. I take all the videos that I have recorded here on Twitch when I'm reading them, because I read them live and then they're saved as a recording afterwards, and I put them over. I trim off the excess stuff around here so it's less fussy looking, and the weird bit at the beginning that just says starting soon, and then I put them over on Twitch and I assemble them into playlists so you can listen to all of one book. You will still get my chat. You will still get me talking about stuff and explaining things. That's part of the reason why I try to read out a comment that is made in the chat on Twitch, so that people who are listening on YouTube know what I'm talking about, because they can't see the chat. Maybe they'll eventually come over to Twitch and then they can see it for themselves and be involved. That would be a good thing to do, wouldn't it? Anyway, so that's the things. Join the Codex's, join Codex Discord server. Follow the other people on Codex who are streamers. All of the ones on Codex are streamers, readers. So you have more people you can listen to who do reading, and get ready to come back next time for more reading time. We still have another couple of chapters at least to go of this book. I think it's 2, maybe 3, I'm not sure. I'll be back in 2 days' time reading some more. And the time will be about an hour and a half, an hour and 3/4 before whatever the time is for you now. And if you're on Twitch and look at the schedule section of it, it will show you what time I'm going to be live next in your time zone. So you don't have to calculate anything. Thank you for being here, Aunt. Thank you for your appreciation. It's really good to have people here listening and enjoying the stories and learning a little bit and having a bit of a laugh as well. So come ready next time. Drink, snacks, something or somewhere comfortable to sit or lie down or whatever, or a project that you need to do like ironing or knitting or whatever else. That's all good. We don't have tests afterwards to check to see if people have been listening. Honestly, we don't. Anyway, good to have you here. Great to have you here, actually. I really enjoy it. It's lovely having some interaction, discussion about various things, all sorts of stuff. When we're reading other books where the chapters are shorter, I will actually chat like this in between the chapters, and I will carry on then with the next chapter, all that sort of stuff. Yes, writing is another thing, as long as you're able to still write while you're listening to things. And if you can't, then, oh well. Maybe you can just tune me out and watch the weird faces and the hands wiggling around and all that sort of stuff. So we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for being here. And in the meantime, happy reading. Bye.